Welcome. In the beginning of class back in August, I introduced you to a video game which I wrote called the SpaceGame. I told you that you'd get a high score if you could figure out what all these numbers mean. Well, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about these numbers. As we thrust up, you'll notice that the v-rad, that means the velocity and the radial direction, that's towards or away from the core of the asteroid, goes up until it reaches its highest point, and then it starts coming down again. We're down to 98% fuel, but once we land back on the red zone, you get 100% of your fuel back. If we thrust up and fire one of our side rockets, you'll notice that our tangent velocity increases and we start to move sideways. Under the letter U, this stands for potential points. You have one potential point. The farther you get from your starting point, the higher your potential points go. And if we land right here, we're going to get our potential points. We now have 2 points. You get one additional potential point for every degree you are away from the starting point. And since there's 360 degrees in a circle, well, if you go all the way around the circle, you'll be back to 0 points. So the highest points are at the very bottom of the asteroid at 180 degrees. The way to get a really high score is to get to the bottom of the asteroid without burning too much fuel. Now, in class we had a demo that showed if you were able to stand several hundred kilometers above the surface of the Earth and simply drop a rock, that this rock would fall not too much different than it would on the surface of the Earth. And we notice right here that it took about 4.5 minutes to hit the ground. We also found that if we were able to throw the rock fast enough, parallel to the ground, that it wouldn't hit the ground at all. Rather, it would fall around the Earth and it would be in orbit. We even learned how to compute exactly what speed it needs to be thrown in order to make a perfectly circular orbit. In our demo, we learned that it was greater than 7 and less than 8, and with our formula, we learned that it was about 7.71 kilometers per second. This same concept applies to the space game. If you take a look at the numbers here, the most important number on this board is the one under the letter E. E stands for eccentricity, and it tells you the shape of your orbit. If your orbit has an eccentricity of 1, that means it's not really in orbit at all. That's why we're on the ground. But if we could get up a little bit, we could turn our rocket sideways and fire the rocket such that our eccentricity dropped to 0. We'd be in a perfectly circular orbit. Okay, let's try it. First I'm going to put on some main thrust. And now I'm going to rotate the spacecraft. Now I'm going to try to stop the rotation just at the right point right there. A little too much, and I'm already heading down, and I'm not in good shape. Probably time to start over. Okay, I'm going to thrust, and I'm going to watch the eccentricity, and we're down to 0.02. That's about as good as it gets. Let's see if we can get any lower. Nope, too high. Hit reverse thrust. And sometimes the side thrusters can get it even lower for you. Okay, I've gotten it about as low as I can. Notice I'm coasting around the asteroid right now. Although I'm falling, the asteroid is curving away from me, so I get no closer to the surface. At this point, the game becomes rather boring until you reach the bottom of the asteroid. In a moment, we're going to pass a tunnel that goes all the way through the asteroid. Those of you who are adventurous can find out what's in the middle. past the halfway point. As we get to the bottom of the asteroid, you'll notice that the spacecraft is aimed in the perfect orientation for you to apply the brakes and come to a stop and let the gravity of the asteroid pull you back down to the surface. At that point, you're going to need to turn the spacecraft so that the feet, the landing gear, are aimed towards the asteroid. If you take a look at the potential points, 131, 132, we're waiting for that to get up to about 178, right before 180, before we start firing our thrusters to try to deorbit. At 177, I'll fire the rockets. And I fired a little too fast, but I have other things to worry about. I don't want to crash. Okay, we're looking pretty good. I'm going to try to get a little bit more to the left. And can I land on this spot? It's worth a lot of points. It's worth 177 points. And coming in for a landing, and boom, we got it. 177 points. There's a few more points over here worth even more. Over in this direction will be 176, 175, etc. And in this direction will go up to 180 before it starts going down again to 179, 178, etc. Let's see if we can get a few more points. I'm going to fire my sideways thruster. See if we can get on this nice little flat area right here. Well, not quite perfect. Okay, slow down just a little bit. And let's come in for a landing. Alright, we got all those points. We're up to 356 points right now. Take a look at our fuel. We have 56% remaining, a little over 56%. That's probably enough to do one more landing before we have to get all the way back to the top of the asteroid and get back to 100% fuel. Let's go for one more landing. We'll try to land on this spot here. It's going to require that I change my orientation just a little bit, and that should be good. Let's fire a sideways thruster. Okay, we're coming down too fast. Okay, we're just about where we want to be. Oops. Oh, I think I can get this. I think I can get this. Let's get backwards. Right on top of it, and boom, we got it. We're up to 531 points right now. We're going to try to get back to the top of the asteroid and get our fuel. We only have 39% fuel remaining. We'll never get back if we have much less than that. Okay, again, I'm going to try to fire until my eccentricity drops to as close to zero as I can get it. And I am not doing too well. I'm heading towards the asteroid. And I crashed. Game over. Well, if you could get back up to the top, and it's very possible, and you could land perfectly on the top, you'd be able to come back to the bottom and get some more points. So that's how you get the most points in the space game. Enjoy.